Welcome back to another Saxton podcast. It's been a long time. How you doing today, Deuce?
I'm good, man. We went on a little hiatus there, a little hangover from the Harry Saxton, but good to be back.
Well, I'll be honest with the people. I was very depressed for about 2 weeks after the Saxton. But the real reason was my team lost. You called me a bitch. And I'm a family man. I have 2 kids, I have a wife, and I just didn't appreciate that.
I thought you were an 80s kid. I thought you could handle it growing up watching basketball in the 80s and 90s. I thought you could handle it, but I was wrong.
I thought it was tough, but once my parents got the crown molding and the marble countertops, that's when everything just went away from me.
I'm in charge of doing the trophy engraving every year. I'm thinking about buying 2 trophies just so you guys can have one for participating next year.
It's been a long time since I've had that thing in my hands. I actually feel like LeBron in the finals.
Yeah, I mean, you usually play well too, but sometimes a couple of your team members don't. But yeah, we had terrible weather this year, but it might have been the best trip we've ever had, so hangover for a good reason.
Once the event was all done and settled, there was a round at history with you and myself.
Yeah, I'm assuming that was probably the lowest round shot in Saxton history, and maybe better ball lowest round ever shot in Saxton history.
59 was on the board after 9 holes.
I was sniffing history. I choked a little in the back, but held together long enough.
65 is nothing to laugh at on 3 hours of sleep.
Yeah, and that was the first time I think we played without 6 layers on, so our bodies weren't used to it.
Well, let's hop right into the NBA Finals. As much as I hate on them, an all-time performance last night by LeBron, and a great performance by Kyrie. Your takeaway?
Credit to you. We texted a little before the game, like we normally do, and you kind of sniffed this one out by LeBron. I said at the beginning of the year, I thought maybe finally the mileage on the tires was going to kick in. He wasn't sure. He was still going to be a really good player, obviously. I thought his cap would have been maybe one of those 30-point games, 10 rebounds, 7 assists. But man, that was shades of Pistons, shades of more of the Celtics elimination game 6. That was awesome to watch.
Yeah, it was fun, and I saw a stat today that whenever he gets at least 25 from somebody else in the playoffs, he's got a 75% winning percentage.
Yeah, I think I saw that same thing. And in elimination games, obviously he's played in a bunch of them. He averages 32, 9, and 7 in elimination games, which is obviously best of all time across the board.
Do they have enough left in the tank, or can Kyrie do what he did in Game 6 on Thursday night?
I don't think they have enough in the tank. I think it was a perfect storm of Kyrie's best performance of his career, LeBron an all-time performance. If you look at the total box score, not just his points and rebounds, but he was dominant on the defensive end too. I can't see both of them putting that together. And to be honest, I think Kyrie is the one that's going to have to do it again. I'm not sure LeBron is young enough to go do the exact same thing with that kind of emotion a day later. So I think Golden State closes it out in Cleveland.
I don't mean this as a knock, but how much stock do you put in to that performance with the absence of Draymond Green and no rim protection?
Definitely. I think you have to recognize it. Draymond's a great defender. I was actually a little bit surprised how much he dominated Iguodala. Iguodala is usually a very good defender, especially against LeBron, but I think it was half and half. I think LeBron would have still had a great night. Probably not that all-time box score that we saw if Draymond had played, but he, like you said, he had that look in his eye, and I still think he would have gotten some sort of performance out of him. I think he was pissed off mostly at Steph Curry. That's why when he blocked him, you saw that face. When Steph was on that one-on-one breakaway and LeBron threw it into the stands, you kind of saw right there that he wanted this game.
If Golden State closes it out Thursday or in Game 7, Is Draymond Green get considered for MVP based on what we saw last night?
I think he has to, right? Clay played really well last night. He kind of tailed off in the second half. I don't think he's getting the credit that he deserves.
He had a quiet
I don't
37.
think Steph is getting enough criticism for how bad he's been. But I think you have said this many times. I think Draymond is the linchpin for the whole team.
Yeah, I always thought that he was the attitude that I likened it to walking down the street with Mike Tyson. You feel no fear. You can do whatever you want. And then when you're walking down the street with some Joe, you got your head on a swivel. I think that's how Steph Curry and Clay play when Draymond's on the court.
Especially on the defensive end, I think. I think you saw Steph get very, very exposed last night with no one behind him to back him up.
There was a stat that when Draymond Green plays center, the Warriors in this series are plus 53. And taking into account last night, they're now minus 39 when he's not on the floor.
That's all you need to know right there, I think. That's very telling.
Yeah, and even without him last night, I still thought the Warriors may pull it out. Looking at the box score this morning, I saw Harry Barnes 2 for 14 and Spates 0 for 6. Barnes more so than Spates had some open looks that just didn't fall.
Yeah, and we both liked Harry in the past. I think he's a good role player, but when he has to step up into that spotlight, I'm not sure he's quite there yet. He'll probably get paid like he is, but I think you feel the same way I do, that I kind of thought Golden State at multiple points was still going to win last night, which is very telling. If you get all-time performance, first teammate to score 40 in a game, and the other team has a chance to win the game, I think that's all you need to know, and that's why I think they're going to wrap it up next game, because I can't see them playing that bad or Cleveland playing that good again.
Your thoughts on Kevin Love?
It's a little sad and embarrassing, but he almost looked happy last night and relieved to not be part of it. I don't know. It's a mystery. I know when he was in Minnesota, there were people who said he is only putting up numbers because of where he is, and it looks pretty true now. He did lose some weight. He did change the game a little bit, but his last year in Minnesota, he was virtually the same player, just playing cleanup games when they're down 30, putting up points and rebounds. So, boy, I can't imagine his trade value as much anymore, even if they did look to move him.
I want to throw this out there. I was thinking of this today as I was looking back on the series. The past couple of years when LeBron was in Miami, Bosh seemed to struggle to fit in. Could that be the case here with Love?
It could be, yeah. Bosh would go in and out. He had some great games, especially that last run, that second championship run with LeBron. So, I think that the dip for Bosh wasn't as significant as it is with Love. I mean, he had 2 points last night. Yeah,
well, at least with Bosh, he was still giving you the effort on the defensive end and grabbing some rebounds. Love.
Yeah, with Bosh, I think we were talking about, his stat line was 14 and 9, or 16 and 8, and with Love, it's he's not even playing.
The other thing that's really jumped out to me in this series is I never really appreciated how good Klay Thompson was until you get to see him over this 4-week stretch of the playoffs. He's really, really good.
Yeah. Well, me and Dana were talking about this, Tundra Dan. I don't think you can name 10 guys that you would start a team with over Klay Thompson at this point.
Well, I would go a step further, and maybe I'm a little bit, because I've seen him so much lately, maybe I'm going a little overboard. But could you make a case that he's just behind LeBron and Durant?
Most people would pick Steph at this point, I think. But if you really wanted to argue about it, you could probably make a case for Klay at around the number 5 spot, I think.
He's 6'7". He obviously may be the best shooter we've ever seen. He guards the one or two who's ever the better player. In this playoffs, he's guarded Lillard, Harden, and Westbrook for the most part, and switched off on LeBron or Kyrie in this series. So he's shutting down somebody on the defensive end. He's giving you 25 to 30 a night. I talk a lot about Kawhi Leonard. I think he's better than Kawhi Leonard.
Man, it's tough, but I think Kawhi obviously is probably ahead of him on the defensive end and as a rebounder. But, you can't really count on Kawhi every night to get you those points. Klay is just, all I hear is that he's a shooter. He's only a shooter. He's pretty underrated athletically, and he gets his own shot pretty easily, even though he doesn't blow past people and tomahawk on centers. He gets to his spot, and he'll make a jump shot right in your face.
So right now, and as I said, it's fresh in our minds, so it could be me overboard, but who else do you put above him other than LeBron and Durant?
I mean, the argument with Steph, I guess, I've never been as big of a Steph fan as everybody else. I think when his shot goes, he doesn't impact the game nearly as much. Half the time his shot goes in, and half the time it's a horrific shot because he misses by 10 feet. So, if you ask me those two, I guess I'd probably still say Steph, but it's close. I think your argument is probably going to be the Westbrook or Klay Thompson argument, and I think I would take Klay Thompson.
Yeah, it's enjoyable to watch Westbrook play, but the way he plays and the size that he is, I think once he hits the wall, that's it.
Yeah, he could take, if you're asking me who could take a worse team to the playoffs, it's probably Westbrook. But I think Klay can get you farther, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, you take Klay or Anthony Davis at this point.
Yeah, Anthony Davis and the Pelicans had such a bad year. He's kind of an afterthought right now.
I know. I mean, I would love to see those two paired together. Obviously, it won't happen, but I think that would be unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Westbrook, and I wanted to touch upon it a little bit since we haven't podcasted in a while. I think that Thunder Warriors series is one of the all-time of my lifetime.
I think it's got to be maybe the best of the last 10 years at least.
You had 4 of the top 10 players in the league on the floor, 7 games. Westbrook was unbelievable early. Durant seemed to get quiet 30 every night. Steven Adams gave them great minutes. And then obviously on the other side with Curry, Thompson, and Green, Iguodala chipping in. I just thought it was fantastic TV.
I loved how each of the players, the stars specifically, Klay, Steph, Draymond, Westbrook, Durant, they all had their moments of absolute greatness where you could say they're the best player on the court, in the league, whatever. And then they all singly had their moments where they kind of let their teams down. I just thought it was interesting and from every angle.
There's 2 things I disagree with. One, the fact that people are saying Durant choked, and maybe to a point he did in Game 6, but Thompson had 18 in the fourth quarter, and him and Steph had 17 combined threes to stave off elimination. And the other thing
the word choke to me is a tough one. It's to me, like you're gonna make mistakes no matter what, right? And people think just because it's a mistake at a certain point in the game, it means more than the same mistake 10 minutes earlier. A choke to me is, like Stuart Sink 3-pointing from 5 feet to win the U.S. Open or something like that.
Yeah.
When 99.9% of the time he makes it in a 1-putt, but this time he 3-putt. Something like that is a choke. But I don't think Durant choked to the greater point either.
And the one other thing, coaching-wise, I thought Donovan went away from what was working with Steven Adams. Steven Adams reminds me of...
happened there at the end. I thought he coached a great series.
Yeah.
And then kind of, I don't know if he overthought it or what at the end, but I agree.
I just thought Adams he's the kind of guy that he always joke around with. You don't want to fight somebody who has nothing to lose. Well, Adams just looks like he plays like he doesn't care what happens. He doesn't care who he hurts. He doesn't care what he has to do. and he was protecting the rim, out hustling everybody. I thought the Warriors had to be very pleased to see Roberson on the court in Game 7 more so than Adams.
Yeah, totally agree. I hated Adams at Pitt because of I thought he had the frame and the size to dominate in college, and he never did. So, kudos to Presti for seeing this and developing Adams. But all of a sudden, he's turned into an aggressive post player who could score a little bit, too. Not only is he a great defender and rebounder, but he had a couple of games there where easy 12 to 16, that inside 10-foot circle.
There's a couple teams going into the offseason that are going to be extremely interesting to watch. I don't know if there's anybody more so than the Thunder because of Durant's situation. Where do you think he goes, and what do you think should happen? I know you
because of the money. Off the top of my head, I don't remember how much more he can make there, but it's a pretty significant amount if he signs the one-year deal and then re-signs with them. If I was Durant, I would want to approach moving Serge Ibaka. I would rather play Steven Adams or Cantor more, but I think you can get a better piece than what Ibaka is and for what he's getting paid for. I think they might have something if they can fill that role with somebody else. I don't know who it would be, but I think he's going to stay. And there's so many rumors out there, it's kind of hard to tell, but I just don't think he leaves a pretty good situation for a team, especially in the West. Like the Lakers, I think that's a pipe dream. Don't think that's happening. The only scenarios I see are Boston and Washington.
Yeah, I guess the one thing that also plays into this that I haven't heard many people talk about, and it didn't linger this year, but how stable is that foot?
Yeah, that's a great point. I almost totally forgot about it. But yeah, three of those foot surgeries, the Liz Frank injuries, are you gotta be a little bit worried about it. I don't think anyone really is, but if you're the Thunder, that's why I thought they should have moved him maybe the end of last year.
Is there any scenario where you see them moving Westbrook and trying to build around Durant?
Man, you could get a ton for Westbrook, I would think. I just don't know. Maybe a Jimmy Butler type deal, but you would need so much more than that, I think. I'm not sure what deal is out there. I'm sure they would want a pretty young piece for him. That would be what I would want to do. But boy, I don't know what was out there. That's an interesting trade maybe to talk about next time if we can see some salaries.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know if you could win a title with Russell Westbrook as your second best player.
Is there a scenario where you can, I'm sure you can find a point guard somewhere, a distributing point guard. Is there a scenario where Westbrook and Ibaka go to New Orleans for Davis in a package?
That's interesting. Who says no to that?
I don't know. I don't think either one would. Like, do the Pelicans, and you can kind of convince Westbrook to re-up with you. Then you don't have to worry about the impending free agency of Anthony Davis and getting out of that mess.
Yeah,
and Westbrook can kind of be his own guy there.
Yeah, I actually would like to see Westbrook and Durant split up to see them on their own. And I would love to see Durant go east. I think Boston and Washington are the most likely scenarios where both have established point guards where he could be the guy. I love watching Westbrook. I don't know if there's anybody in the league that plays harder than him, but I hate watching him in the last 2 minutes of a game.
I know. I was thinking last night watching LeBron that LeBron is almost much better fit with Durant because he would be so happy distributing Durant in the last 2 minutes.
Oh, absolutely.
And he's a better passer than Westbrook is.
That goes without saying.
Right. So, there's so many scenarios that I like better for specifically Durant. John Wall, obviously I'm a homer, but he's one of the better pass-first point guards in the league.
I heard this somewhere else, but I want to pose this question to you. Durant's probably making peanuts in the NBA compared to his shoe deal and some of the other deals he has. Nike being the biggest deal he has. At what point, or is there a point that does Nike say it's time for you to go to a bigger market?
Man, interesting. You would have to think. I think his shoes are pretty popular. I know I'm getting the old man status now, but I think they're pretty popular. And I can only imagine if he did go to a bigger market, how much more marketable he would be. Yeah, I would think there might be a conversation or two when he decides to sit down with his people. I would think Nike would be in that room of people for sure.
And speaking of money, I noticed that Steph Curry's the 5th highest paid player on the Warriors. Do you see any scenario where Curry says, I'm happy being underpaid compared to what my market value is because I'm making...
Steph Curry is Russell Wilson. And the Warriors are the Seahawks. They'll have to trim eventually somewhere. It'll obviously probably be the bench where they have to sacrifice some people, but people forget when he signed that deal, he was coming off of 15,000 ankle injuries, and he just couldn't stay healthy, and he wasn't nearly the player all of a sudden he is. So I think that deal was actually more than fair when he signed it.
Yeah, I think you touched upon it earlier that Harry Barnes is going to be the one to go, and I think somebody's going to overpay for him and realize that probably his ceiling is Andre Iguodala.
At best, I think. I think at best it's Iguodala. I think a couple other names, like I would like to see them keep Livingston. I think he's a really, really good piece on that team. I don't know what Spade's deal is, but I could see Spades making more somewhere else and walking. So guys like that I could see leaving.
2 other notes quickly on the NBA. The rumor going around of Butler going to Minnesota for the 5th pick. Your thoughts on that?
I like it on the surface, especially for Minnesota. I think it's a good deal for both teams. I would assume Minnesota is looking at Chris Dunn at pick 5. You don't know what he's going to be, and Butler's obviously a proven commodity. I don't know how well Butler fits, though, with Wiggins and Levine, so I'd be curious to see who is a part of that deal. But Butler and Anthony Towns is a pretty good combo.
Reuniting him with Tom Thibodeau.
Yeah, Thibodeau obviously loves him. I don't know if they can win, though, with Ricky Rubio at point guard. That's why I still like the Chris Dunn to Minnesota.
And then the other thing is number 1 pick, Simmons or Ingram in your eyes?
I think it's Simmons. I've never really wavered on it. I think you can improve as a jump shooter. There's been 100 examples of that. LeBron, number 1. Obviously, he didn't shoot it well this year, but coming out of high school, he couldn't shoot at all. I think it's Simmons, and I would think you do, too.
Yes, I do. I'm all aboard Simmons. I'll be shocked if it's Ingram. And I think Simmons is the right pick.
I like Ingram, but the Durant comparisons are insane. I think he'll be a nice NBA scorer. I don't think he's efficient enough, though, for me to be the number 1 pick.
There's so much media, so much... you could see so many games now. I don't think people realize that Durant's probably once a lifetime player.
People forget what he did in college. He was scoring 35 a night at Texas and putting up insane numbers. I think people are quick to forget what kind of numbers he actually put up because they didn't really make a run in the NCAA tournament either. But he was putting up insane numbers in college. Now that's not everything, but when a guy's 6'10" and shoots it like that, it is.
And the last thing I have for you, Game 6, Cleveland is 2.5-point favorites. Do you have a lean or a like?
Draymond Green coming back probably will be a detriment at the beginning of the game with the emotion. But 2.5 will give me the better team. I think they will outshoot Cleveland and take it home.
An official.
Yeah, I like Golden State. What about you?
I do. We're 32-27. This could be the last pick for the calendar year as the football season would start a new year. So
yep.
Let's roll with it. Official play, Golden State plus 2.5.
Yeah, I like it. I like that we're coming off of a team off a loss and we're getting points.
Well, we pod next week. We'll recap the NBA Finals, look ahead to the off season and the NBA draft upcoming. But now
Yeah, it's coming up fast.
to your bread and butter. Thursday, Oakmont. How excited are you?
I'm actually more excited for this than maybe any golf tournament in the last few years. Going back to basically the most traditional American golf course that you can find. The best players in the world are all playing well. I think everyone who likes golf has got to be excited.
Have you been called to search for balls that are hitting in the rough?
It looks nasty. I saw that they finally had some mowers out, and they just topped it off a little bit. I think that might be the last time you see them, depending on the weather. But the ball markers or field markers, whatever they're called, they're going to have their hands full this week with those little orange flags.
Without Tiger being in the field, has there been more storylines going into a major?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think we started to see that theme. Minus when Rory comes in on one of those hot streaks and he gets to play a soft golf course, he almost always wins like on that type of setup, and you can kind of see those coming. But other than those, since Tiger's has gone away, I think every major seems wide open. Now, Spieth in the Masters might change that because it looks like he might contend or be the favorite there every year for the next 15 years. But yeah, wide open, it seems like, is the new theme to every major, which, could be good or bad. It's fun seeing both, actually.
Give us the weather update first.
So storms are going to roll in. Always tough to predict thunderstorms and lines of thunderstorms because they can kind of just pop up. I think they're going to get some rain Wednesday night, and I think Thursday there is going to be storms around. It's just a probability of where they hit. I would say 70 to 80% chance that they do get a storm, maybe stop play. And it's a double-edged sword, right? You get some rain, it definitely softens the fairways, makes them wider, no run out. Definitely makes the greens more receptive, but makes the rough a lot tougher. So I would assume most of the longer players are hoping for rain. They would rather see the golf course softened up, and many of the shorter players are probably hoping the rain stays away.
Looking at the forecast for Thursday and Friday, do you see an advantage going out morning late morning?
I was just before we hopped on this call, I was trying to get an updated weather forecast, and it's still a little bit too early for the exact timing. But if you put it to me right now, I think the early late is what I would want if I was a player at this moment. So the late early, I think, is going to get the more severe conditions. They'll probably all have the soft conditions for the first day or two. But if you go out in the afternoon on Thursday, you probably run a much higher risk of getting caught in a thunderstorm. So while they might call play for an hour or two, or a couple hours, you have to deal with the 20, 30 minutes before the thunderstorm hits where it gets real windy, stuff like that. So at this moment, I would rather have early, late.
How have you been hearing the USGA to prefer setting this course up?
That's weird. You usually see Mike Davis's mug all over your TV for the 2 weeks before the Open. I haven't seen Mike Davis yet. I have a feeling that's because this is Oakmont. Oakmont plays a certain way, and that membership kind of controls this course. And I don't think there's as much leeway here as there is, say, like Chambers Bay last year, where it was Mike Davis's little baby. So, they'll move some tees around. They'll have the newly traditional graduated rough. But I think that's about it. I don't think Mike Davis is allowed at Oakmont to do whatever he wants.
What have you heard from the players after their practice rounds, how the course is playing, how their feelings are?
It's always interesting to see who bitches and moans and who appreciates it. And it has been majority appreciating the pureness of the golf course. There's been tons of guys, especially some of the Europeans and some of the younger guys, that are seeing this place for the first time, maybe have never really even seen it on TV. They're just complimenting the condition, obviously saying how hard it is, but saying it's one of the purest places they've ever seen. So, unlike U.S. Opens the last couple of years, not as much complaining, but, old guard Billy Horschel, Phil Mickelson made a couple comments already about how it's a physical danger to the players. I think especially after maybe Friday afternoon, Saturday, when the course is firm again, you'll start seeing some complaints.
Is there any indication that Phil or any other player will be wearing a bowling wrist guard?
Well, he showed up in 07 with a wrist guard. I would bet if there's a prop bet out there per day, especially Thursday and Friday, over under maybe 5 times you see a player hit a shot and start grabbing their wrists.
You mentioned Euros. I'll throw a couple names at you. Let me know your thoughts. I'll start with Danny Willett.
Masters champ, comes in on pretty good form. He went back over to Europe after he won the Masters, and he won right away in Europe and played well 2 other times he played. Pretty good game for this course, actually. He's a very good putter, and he hits it straight. I don't know if he's the type of class pedigree player, though, that can win 2 majors in a row.
Rory McIlroy.
I don't know what to make of Rory right now. He won the Irish Open, obviously, but he seems to be actually in a good spot to me because he hasn't been playing well, but his finishes have still been good. He seems like he top 10s it every week, even though his putter just doesn't make anything. He went back to conventional grip at Memorial and really putted well at T4 there. I think this is a good golf course for him. He will hit a ton of 2 irons and 3 woods off the tees. And he's the best iron player in the world by a lot, I think. So I think this is a good golf course for him if he can make just a little bit more than usual, those 5 to 10 footers, because he's going to need a few of those for par.
Jason Day.
My favorite this week, complete game, tee to green. I think you'll see the 2 iron from him a ton. I think he can almost Tiger-esque hit the 2 iron to an advantage here, where he'll put it past some of the guys even that are hitting driver. What separates him from Rory to me is the putter. I think he's a much better putter, obviously. Leads the tour in strokes gained putting. And he has a great record in U.S. Opens, no matter the venue. It almost seems like he embraces the difficult setups and the wonkiness of some of them. So, 4 top 10s and 5 U.S. Open starts on much different venues. The one similar was Marion. I think those golf courses are very similar, and he finished second. So, I like Jason Day a lot this week.
Spieth.
Best putter in the world. I worry a little bit that if the rough is too thick, he is not the straightest off the tee and does not hit the highest percentage of greens. I worry that he's going to put himself in a bad spot one too many times. But mentally, he is so much better than everybody else. It would not shock me if he wins.
Dustin Johnson.
Biggest cock in the field.
You think he will?
In the field.
You think he will go the route of trying to overpower?
That's interesting. I think I'm almost positive you'll see Day and Rory dial it back. I have a feeling Dustin Johnson might take the route of hitting driver everywhere. And if you put 07 Cabrera next to 2016 DJ, their games are very similar. Both kill it with the driver and are pretty decent with the little wedge shots out of the rough. Cabrera was not known as a good putter either back then, so there are some similarities in DJ's favor this week.
Ricky Fowler.
So I usually come up with spreadsheets with kind of combining stats, and then you get one raw number out of that. And Fowler was atop those stat rankings this week. But, man, it just, after blowing up and losing to Matsuyama in Phoenix in that playoff, you know, he missed a cut badly at the Masters and missed a cut at the Players. I don't know. Something's just off with him right now.
Bubba Watson.
T5 here in '07, so there is some evidence that Bomb and Gouge might work here, but he, like Fowler, since his win back in February at Riviera and his runner-up at the Rally, he has done absolutely nothing. And mentally, there's probably not a guy worse built for a U.S. Open than Bubba Watson.
Phil.
Oh, God, who knows? He's already crying. He's having a really good year. He missed a cut at Oakmont in '07, but, you know, in his 50 other appearances in U.S. Opens, he's only missed 2 cuts. So you got to think he's got a good shot at making the weekend. But he flew home last night from Oakmont back to San Diego to see his daughter's 8th grade graduation. He's flying back today. You know, I am not expecting a Phil U.S. Open type of week.
Adam Scott.
Adam Scott's another guy I don't love this week. He's got the game, obviously. He's head and shoulders above everyone's strokes gained tee to green right now. So he hits it better than everybody. That short game I don't think a U.S. Open on a traditional venue like this is something that he's ever going to succeed in. Win. I think if he's going to win an Open, it's got to be someplace like Chambers Bay or next year at Erin Hill, something like that. I just don't think his short game is good enough to win around here.
2 of the previous winners, Keimer and Justin Rose.
I loved Justin Rose. If you had asked me if this podcast was 2 months ago, I think it was a great course for him. But he pulled out of his last 2 events with Wentworth and Memorial with back injury. It hasn't played since, so probably some rust to knock off, and, rough that you can't find your ball in can't be good if you have a bad back. So not sure what to expect really from Rose. He might just try to get around without hurting himself. Keimer's kind of fallen off the map too. I know he won at Pinehurst, but I don't necessarily think Pinehurst and Oakmont are anywhere close to each other as in types of games that it fits. So, he can't use his putter from 50 yards off the green here. I'm not sure about Keimer this week.
Lastly, the guy who won it in '07, the Duck.
So I talked about the stat sheet I compiled earlier. He is dead last in the stat sheet by a lot. By a lot. He plays well at certain venues. He clearly played well in '07. Man, it would be a story if his name worked his way up the leaderboard.
Give me some guys that maybe a lot of people aren't familiar with, or that would fly under the radar on most people's eyes.
Yeah, major, you're going to get all the usual names, Rory Day, Spieth. But there are a couple other really good players that I think are good values if you're a bettor or, you do DraftKings or anything like that. I really like Patrick Reed. Hits it plenty far enough. This isn't a very long golf course. But he is dominant in the short game category. Scrambling, strokes gained around the green, strokes gained putting. He loves fast greens. He loves hard golf courses. So I really like Patrick Reed this week. I think he's kind of got that mindset where he does not care if he's 5 over par as long as he's winning. Young guy from England, Matthew Fitzpatrick, he won in Sweden a couple weeks ago. He's not a long hitter, but he is very straight, and he's a very good putter. Obviously, a really good combo for a United States Open. Charles Schwartzel, I don't think is getting much talk. He's had a very good year. He's only missed one cut this year. He won at Innisbrook, which is a tough golf course. I could see him lurking around the leaderboard come Sunday. He's pretty under the radar. You know, the guy won a major already, but no one talks about him. Jason Duffner, kind of a prototypical U.S. Open style game, old school U.S. Open. Fairways, greens, two-putt, fairways, greens, two-putt. So I would not be surprised for him to see him succeed. Two other guys that are, you know, I would categorize them as sleepers. Mark Leishman, really good win player, really good par 70 course player. He likes to make a lot of pars, so pars never bad, especially around Oakmont. And Russell Knox, winner of a WGC event earlier this year. He's had a very good year. He is one of the best ball strikers in the world, and he is very good. He's second on tour in bogey avoidance, which sounds like a real geeky stat, but if you can avoid making the big numbers at a U.S. Open, I think you'll do pretty well.
How about some guys, bigger names that you would avoid?
We've already mentioned a couple of them. I do not like Bubba this week. Mentally, he's just a basket case. I'm not sure how that can ever succeed at an Open. Justin Rose, the back scares me. He hasn't played, so I would avoid him. I know it's weird to say, but Adam Scott, I don't love Adam Scott. He's such a good ball striker, but man, that short game is scary. Phil, that reason's already stated. I don't love Phil. I mean, those are pretty big names right there. I don't love Hideki Matsuyama earlier. Most people think ball striker, they think him. But as you've said many times, I don't think he mentally has it when it comes down Sunday, especially on a tough golf course where the putter might get a little clinkety. I don't love Matsuyama this week either.
Give me some players that you looked long and hard at before you make your pick.
Well, it's the biggest purse of the year, or second biggest purse of the year, so you normally want to trot out someone big. I will probably be going with Jason Day. If you have Patrick Reed, I like Patrick Reed. Spieth, obviously, I don't think you can go wrong in a big event with Spieth. I would take a look at some of the second-tier players like a Charles Schwartzel. There's a couple guys that I like. I don't think they can win, but I think a mid-cut is pretty safe. Matt Kuchar, you know, just an automatic top 25 guy. Brandt Snedeker has a pretty good U.S. Open record. Kind of quiet, too. He's a really good putter, really good scrambler. I could see him being up there. And then you know he's not going to win, but Sergio Garcia, you'd think where fairways and greens mean something, that he would be able to make the cut at least. But we all know that he won't be holding the trophy come Sunday.
One thing that you were correct in picking, a little bit of a side note, was Tiger would not play in the first two majors. Do you expect him back for the British?
No. Or the PGA.
Will he play at all this year?
Nope, I'm actually going to revise my original. I think before the year started, you asked me, and I said fries.com. I actually think it won't be until the, whatever it's called now, Hero World Challenge in December, his little event in the Bahamas.
So the next time
he will make his return at an event where the field is limited, the press is limited, and it doesn't really count for much.
The next time we'll see him in a major, 2017 Masters?
Correct.
All right, this week's winning score.
Oh, man, that's a good one because of the rain. I was going to say +4 before the rain forecast. I think with that little bit of rain, I think it's going to take some fire out of the golf course, especially on Thursday. I think you'll see someone shoot maybe 66, 67, which is 3 or 4 under on Thursday. So with the rain, I will say +2 wins the 2016 U.S. Open.
If I said 66.5 is the over-under for low score of the week, you would tell me?
Oh, man. I would say you're a professional bookmaker. And I think someone Thursday shoots 66.
Before we get to your pick, any holes that will be more interesting than others that people may have fun watching?
Yes. Well, obviously the huge par 3, 288 yards. They'll push it back there. You'll see some drivers. The duck, there's a good story about the duck about that hole. He was feeling so juiced up in the final round that he hit his 2-iron, which normally goes 230. He hit it 265 that day, which is pretty awesome to hit your 2-iron 40 yards farther than you normally do. There's a couple holes, like number 1, it will say 480 on the scorecard, but once you get to about the 100-yard mark, maybe 90-yard mark, the fairway goes straight down to the green. I think if we get a perfect wind direction, like downwind, 5 to 10, doesn't have to be blowing hard, I think you might see DJ and Bubba try to drive the green, and if it hits that little speed slope, they can be close on a 480-yard hole, which is just embarrassing. But I think it is going to look great on TV. There's no 1 or 2 signature holes, really, just a bunch of really good par 4s. I think what you're going to find out is usually courses give you a hole or two, especially on the par 5s. That it couldn't be more untrue about Oakmont.
2 things that jumped out at me from your comments there. The duck. People also have to remember that he smoked 2 cartons of cigarettes that Sunday at Oakmont. I don't think he's on. I think the cigarettes are done. So he might be a little shaky this time around.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that you always joke around about is DJ and Bubba may drive 480-yard hole, but let's ban the anchored putter.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't be shocked if you hear Azinger make that exact comment if one of them does get it on that hole. I think if you, going back to your original question, if I had one hole to park myself for 6 hours, it'd probably be 17. Uphill, drivable par 4. Furyk was famously tied for the lead and tried to drive that green and put himself short side and made bogey. You'll see guys hit 7-irons off that tee, and you'll probably see the big hitters like Dustin go for the green with a 3-wood. So there is not much bailout on that hole. The wedge shot is harder than maybe a pitch shot around the green, so you'll see every shot in the bag on that one.
How about, do you expect that we will see a exciting Sunday or runaway winner?
I was leaning towards excited Sunday. I worry that someone gets out on Thursday before the storms and after the overnight rains and shoots something, shoots that 66 if it's a good player, and then they get to go out after the storms and after the rain on Friday afternoon, late in the day, it's calm, it's wet, and shoots another, 1 or 2 under. That worries me that someone could separate like that. But I still think that place is so pure that it'll dry out for Saturday and Sunday. I think we're going to have a good leaderboard, and Sunday I think it would be pretty wild.
And your winner?
I'm going to go Jason Day. I went back and forth with him and Spieth. Spieth just kind of rises to the occasions with these things, but I'm going to go chalk. I'm going to go Day. I think that weapon that he has with that 2-iron is just something that other guys, minus, Rory and a couple others, they don't have. So combination of that 2-iron and his putting, I think, gets it done. I think he continues a hot streak.
Any other golf notes worth mentioning?
I think Day also is going to get some advice from Tiger this week about Oakmont. They're apparently really good friends, so I think that's a big advantage. Philly golf showed really well last week for the seniors. Cricket Club looked unbelievable on TV, so Philly golf really in the spotlight. And the women's, Brooke Henderson, won on a great golf course, Sahali. in dramatic fashion. Lydia Ko, I said I don't like the word choke, but she missed a 2.5-footer on 17 in regulation to put it away. And good for Brooke Henderson, one of our friends' new favorite LPGA Tour players.
I was just gonna say he did not even need Viagra that night.
No, he was immediate with the responses, so he was all over Brooke immediately.
Thursday will be a great sports day with the Open, NBA Finals, and U.S. Soccer. That's
U.S. Soccer too.
to make the bear happy.
If we want to touch on that topic next time, we could bring up why does the U.S. Soccer not have any of those great players? I think it's a really interesting topic to talk about.
If they're still alive and there's interest, perhaps we could.
Yeah,
but with Brazil out, they've gone to more expectations now, so we'll see.
Well, we might lose our 4 listeners if we start talking soccer, so we need to think about that.
Great job by you today.
You too, buddy.
All right, talk to you
Good
soon.
to be back.
See ya.
See you, bud.